Hi there, this is Dennis Velco with OutBüro. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of OutBüro Voices, where we have engaging dialogues with LGBTQ professionals, entrepreneurs, and community leaders. And today we have the great pleasure and honor to be speaking with Christopher Clawson. He is an author and publisher representing over 150 authors from around the world. If you are an author or aspiring author, you are definitely going to stay tuned to hear about his journey and what he does with his authors. Welcome to the show, Christopher.
Thank you very much. It's exciting to be here with you.
Oh, well, wonderful. I appreciate you taking time out of your day. For those of you watching, today is New Year's Eve on 2020. We are Happy New Year's to you as well. We are so looking forward to a new year on so many levels. But before we get started, because this is having Christopher here, he is an accomplished author and a publisher with, again, a stable of over 150 authors that he represents. I would like you to take a moment and think of this new year, and whatever time of the year that you happen to be viewing this, it's your opportunity to renew and focus. So are you a author? Are you desiring to be an author? If so, please put comments down below in whatever application you are viewing this on, and let us know. Let us know where you are on your journey, perhaps what struggles you are having, and perhaps what kind of questions you might have. And we'll try to get to answering your question, or other people within the comment threads can also give you advice, encouragement, and so forth. So, Christopher, with that, I'm sure you have had several questions throughout your long history, but let's first talk a little bit about how you came to be first an author.
By accident, or better yet, peer pressure from my 16-year-old daughter. At the time, I was reading a lot. And my daughter came to me and asked me how the story that I was reading was going. And I said I could write a better story. And because she's 16 at the time, said, then why don't you? So I said, being the father of a 16-year-old, said, okay, fine, I will. So I put my mind to it. And then 4 months later, I had this book, what I thought was a book. I had this manuscript in hand and said, see, here you are, I did it. And her response was, no, Dad, that's a manuscript. That's not a book. You need to have it published first. And again, my smart ass 16-year-old came to me. So I then turned around and said, okay, fine, I have to get this published. And I looked and I put the feelers out there, and I put the query letters out. And 6 years later, I finally found someone who said yes. And they wanted to morph my book into something that I didn't even know. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. And so I found another publisher who said, yes, we'll take it. But when they did it, they threw it into my lap and said, here you go. Here's your book. You're all set, which was good for me in a way, because then I could show it to my daughter and say, see here, I did this. But the whole point of her comment was, well, great, Dad. Now that you have this book, what are you going to do with it? So she's pushing me all the way, which is really good, because now I have what I do. But the whole point of this is, I had no idea that this is what I wanted to do, or this is where I was going to go. It was just because she kind of just opened the door up and said, here you are, pushing me through it.
Yeah, so she really questioned and challenged you.
She absolutely did. And I'm not sure if she realized she was doing this, or that she realized that this was all going to happen, but she did. She pushed me all the way through it. Well, when the final publisher came to me and threw my book in my lap, it was kind of an eye-opening experience, because there was no marketing. There was no, how are you going to sell this thing? There was nothing. And I just kind of had to learn and remarket myself and figure out how to sell this book. And actually to make a decision, did I just want to have this book and give it to my family and say, here, I wrote this book, you can read it? Or did I actually want to make something out of it?
Now, what year time frame was that, if I may ask?
This was 16 years ago.
Oh, okay.
2004.
So a bit, because like now, I mean, it does seem relatively easy. It's not, nothing is easy, but I do chat with authors, and there's several who are self-publishing, but then they, which we'll be getting to in a moment, kind of realize, oh, yeah, I could write my book, and hopefully you have someone else read it and edit it for you, please, people, because even me writing a 2 or 3 page article on my website, I always need someone else to read it, because
Is always good.
your voice, and you fill in the gaps really easily. I'm sure you know what I mean by that.
Yeah.
You fill in words, or you shortcut your sentences might be kind of shortcut in the way that you're saying it, that makes total sense to you, but to someone who doesn't understand the topic, it's like speaking a foreign language. And so that's where I have someone who will read my info. But then there's the whole thing of marketing it and getting it out there. So you had this book, you had someone, quote unquote, publish it, basically print it out and slap a cover on it.
Basically what it was Amazon and a glorified publishing house. Yes. Because Amazon doesn't help you publish your book either. So if you publish, which is great, and if that's what you want to do, but Amazon's not going to help you publish. And that's exactly what this place did. They just put it in my hands and said, here you go, do whatever you want with it. So it was kind of, I had to figure it out. And once I did and said, yes, I actually want to make something out of this, I bought 100 copies. We were living in New York City at the time, and I bought 100 copies and I put them on the subway so that people could pick them up on the subway chairs and just start to read them. And the whole idea was, if there's a couple of people on the train who are reading my book, other people are going to be looking at them too. And then they're going to say, well, there's 2 on this train who are reading the same book. It must be pretty good. And they went and buy it. Well, that's exactly what happened. So people started buying the book. And I did pretty well that way. So you kind of have to do that out of the box thinking when you're marketing your book, or marketing anything probably, because people are tired of the old way, and then you have to grab their attention so that you can actually be seen.
Yes, and actually when we first spoke, you didn't mention it there, but I will, so that folks can understand the gravity of what you did with the subway placement of 100 books. Is you told me that ended up, that you could basically track that ended up selling 7,000 copies.
17. It was 17,000.
Oh goodness, 17,000. Wow.
That's just from putting 100 books on New York subways.
So, I mean, what wonderful guerrilla marketing. And I mean, and that really was, especially living somewhere like New York, and folks, if you live somewhere else, there's other ways that you could do that. Just think about, where people gather. And, maybe it's not a subway. Maybe it's you have, 40 books, and you're in, you have a little downtown, and you go around and literally hand them out to people.
Exactly. Tell people who you are and say, here, this is my new book. Would you read it?
Read it. Would you please go on, review me?
Exactly. And if you put a card in there that says, or even a bookmark or something that says, this is how you can get a hold of me, or this is how you can email me, or you can leave a review at, you have to lead them to what you want them to do. So this was a really good learning experience for me.
Absolutely. And I like that idea of leaving the bookmark or something in with the contact information where they can purchase it, your website or your Amazon link, typed out there so they can do it. And maybe even throw in a couple. So that way, when they are sitting there reading, if someone goes, ooh, comments, what's that book you're reading? They go, oh my God, I love it. Oh, and here's a card.
Card for you. Go buy this book. It's fantastic. You're right. Absolutely.
Yeah. And that is social media 101, right? That's like, that is social media without all of the technology or Facebook creepy tracking crap. So I love it.
I like to tell my authors is that if you're gonna sell on social media, then you have to actually be social, because that's what it's for. If you're just gonna like someone's post, or you're gonna put something out there and people are gonna like it and they're not gonna have any communication in there, you're not actually doing the social media thing. if someone likes your post, then and they don't comment on it, you actually have to call them out. Because you can see who it is. You can say, thanks for liking my post. You can find my information here. Or someone says something about, you post something about a dog, and someone says, oh, I have a dog too. And yeah, I have 3 books and I put a dog in each one of them. You have to communicate with them, just like if they were standing in front of you, so that you're having that conversation. And then you kind of have to sell without actually driving your book down their throat. You know what I mean? So you're saying, if someone says, let's do it this way. Someone posts that they just got a new dog, and you say, I love dogs. I love them so much that I put a golden retriever in my first book. His name was Charlie. You've just told people that you've written a book, that you love dogs, and they're in your book, and people are going to say, oh, how do I get a hold of it? And then you put a link in it that says, this is how you can find my book. And you haven't actually said, go buy it. You just said, I've written a book. And then people are going to be interested to find out. And if there's a dog in it, then people who love dogs, then they're going to go ahead and they're going to look into it. You have to think of things that way. You just can't just like something and let someone, you can't post it and let someone like it and let that go away with you. You've got to actually communicate with them.
Yes. I like that advice. And that's sound advice for any business.
Yeah.
Really. One of the things that I like to really clarify for people is, when you are an artist, whether you are a painter, or even if you're a musician of some sort, or you're an author, you are an entrepreneur. So many people in the field of liberal arts, they just kind of have this odd belief system, and maybe it's how things worked for the lucky few in the past, of that, oh, they can just create and sit back and the world is going to come swooshing toward them and bestow millions of dollars onto them for that wonderful creation. Well, no, it does. And it didn't work that way, except for a very, very few.
You're right. It wasn't a lie. I mean, it did happen, but it only happened for, you're right, the special few. The other people just continue to have to beat their head up against the wall trying to find someone to use or utilize or view their work. And if you didn't, then you just continued to make it and hoping that someday someone was going to. Well, it doesn't work that way now.
Right.
Amazon is a perfect example for this. When I started my company, there were 4.5 million authors on Amazon, and that was 5 years ago. Now there's over 10.5 million. So if you have 10.5 million people who've written a book and it's all on Amazon, and you're thinking that I'm going to self-publish and put my book on Amazon and I'm going to make $1 million, you're fighting with 10 million other people to try and get that book. You've got to make yourself known and be visible. You just can't put it on there and think that everything is going to be shiny and new for you. That just doesn't work.
Yes, absolutely. So let's kind of transition. Let's kind of back up just a few moments, or for just a little bit here, and let's talk about you talked about the kind of the impetus of your writing was your daughter's kind of prodding you along. And so what was the genre of that first book?
So the first book that I wrote they classified it as romance suspense, and I kind of like to classify my writing more as the everyday, because I like to write about everyday people and the stories that they have that are going on in their lives that no one actually knows about, or that they don't actually pay attention to. And I wrote this. The perfect thing is that my second book is called The Trade. The Trade starts with the World Trade Center falling down, and everyone thinks that that's what it's all about, but it's not. It's all about the trade-off that one has in their life. So you're going along perfectly fine, and you're a family man, and you've got 2 kids, and you have a job, and your wife has her job, and everything is great. And then your wife gets caught in the World Trade Center, and you don't know where she is. Now you're a family of 3, and you're a single father of 2 small girls. You have a business of your own, and you're trying to handle all that stuff in between that. No one actually considers all that you have to go through. I like to write about that the things that happen in your life that change you to move from one situation to the next.
Okay, very interesting. And
No
if
one,
I'm
no
not
one
mistaken,
thinks about, oh, my father-in-law has cancer and I have to deal with those things, or my relationship with my own family is strained and I have to deal with that. You're just going on with your life, and the people that you know out in the community don't even consider the fact that you have these traumas or these situations or these goals or these happy moments going on in your life. They're just going through their day just like you are.
right, understand. And I could see the power and the interest in that kind of a story because it helps people connect and say, "Oh, I've had something similar too." So they can identify and resonate with that kind of a story.
You're right. The first
Very,
the first book I wrote actually kind of did that. It was all about an art professor who had been physically and sexually abused when he was a child, and finding himself in a confessional, trying to get all this off of his chest because it was just weighing on him. Come to find out that the priest that was confessing to had similar situations, so they kind of bonded in a friendship, and they kind of helped each other work through those issues. And that is more appealing to me than finding to write about someone who has a lot of cars or a lot of money, or they're going through and they're having a lot of sex. That's just not interesting to me. I want something that's really harsh or really good for someone, and how they have to deal, and it affects them and the people around them.
I like that. Like that. Now, if I recall, you have yourself have written, was it 6 books so
Yes.
far? Okay. And then, so how did you've stumbled into being an author. And then it sounds like you've kind of stumbled into being a publisher as
You
well.
are correct. I did that too.
And was that because of the way that those early publishers kind of handled your particular first book and you did it on your own and kind of saw the need, or what was that kind of draw to do that?
It took me 3 books to figure this out. Um, the same situation was happening. The publisher was throwing it back in my hands and saying, "Go and do this." They were of no help to me whatsoever. And other authors were coming to me and saying, "How is it that you're selling your book?" Or, "What do I do with this?" So they're asking me all this information on how I'm dealing with my own business. We're going to call it my own writing business. And the thought happened to me: why am I not just doing this on a more professional level and saying, we're going to have, instead of having this kind of publishing house, we're going to actually be a publisher that helps the author do what they need to do, and to teach them and to guide them along, and to give them services so that they can make a good product, and to give them services so they can actually sell their book, and to show them how that all works, as opposed to just a publishing house that puts it in their lap and then walks away. So it kind of happened after book 3, and people kind of came to me and said, "I need your help. Can you help me with this?" And I thought, well, why am I not just doing this all on my own, which comes to Breaking Rules Publishing. And the whole idea behind that, my last name is Rule. So I'm not very good at keeping rules. So I breaking the rules in the publishing business, Breaking Rules Publishing, just because you're kind of breaking the mold on this. There's a lot of publishing. I'm not going to bash all of them, but there's a lot of publishing houses that will just do that. They'll print your book and then they'll give it to you, and then you don't know what to do with it, especially people who've only done it for the first time and have no real idea. They just had an idea that they wanted to write the book and they wanted to get it out there, and thought, now what do I do? So we're here to help you do that. And 2, there are so many people who get rejection letters from publishing houses, and it's just not necessary. We don't give rejection letters. We don't say no to anybody. We'll say not yet, or you're not ready. We'll tell them that there's a spot in between page 145 and 190 that we don't know where you went. You got to fix that. And then after that's done, then we can go ahead and publish your book. But we're trying to help them so that their book can be successful and it can be complete, not just to say, no, you're never going to get yourself published. This is never going to be any good.
Oh, very, very cool. So you give her a review, you give some feedback. Now, when you do kind of set them on their way, do you guys offer editing or partner with editors to perhaps help them if they and of course there's cost involved, so likely the writer would have to, if they want to have the best product, is to pay for that editor.
Yes. If you want to use one of our editors, and there are a couple things. Vanity presses are publishing houses that charge you to publish their book. And we don't charge anybody to publish their book. We, however, do have editing services that are available that we've worked out deals with, so that if you want to get your book edited, they're gonna edit it for you at a smaller price because they're dealing with us, but they have to get paid. We don't necessarily have editors within our program or our business. We have people on the outside doing it for us. So we will connect you with a good editor at a discounted rate so that you can get a good product out. And then when you're done, you come back to us and then we go ahead and publish your book.
Okay, understand. And I like that. I understand the term vanity press, because also I'm also a painter, hobbyist, really, but there's the term in the art world of the vanity gallery.
Yeah.
And so where the artist basically is renting the walls
Space
in the gallery, and it's not even a consignment kind of situation. No, you pay for everything, plus they make percentage when they sell. It's a total game. So how do you kind of what are some of the things that you do to walk a publisher through? So a publisher comes to you, maybe they've had to go off and do some editing, they come back, it's now kind of, ready for a go live. What are kind of some of the steps that Breaking Rules Publishing does to work with the author?
So once we get the manuscript back and it's all approved, and we send them a contract and say, yes, we're going to publish it for you. And we ask for the 5 components that you need. You need a final draft, you need a blurb, you need a photocopy of the author's image, you need to have an acknowledgement page, and you've got to have a cover art. Once we ask for all that, while we're doing that, we pick a publicist to contact that author to say, the two of you need to join together so that as we're creating this book for them, you two are talking and saying, where do you live? What's your goal for this book? How can we market it in your area? Do you want to do this nationwide? Do you just want it to be state? Do you just want to have this book made so that you can give it to your family? What exactly are the goals? So that we have people who are working on creating the book, as well as people who are starting to sell or preparing to sell the book before the book is even made. So that when that book is done, the author and the marketer and us can all hit the ground running and say, we're going to go here and this is what we're going to do. That's what's working for us now. A good example is we have a lady, her name is Sandy Wells, she's written 4 books so far this year, all on her phone. She's from Tennessee, and she wrote the stories about places who are in New Hampshire. So the marketer got a hold of everyone who's in her town to do an article on her, because she's wrote this on her phone, 4 books on her phone, which is an amazing accomplishment all on its own. But he also got a hold of the place that she wrote the book about. So they're connected, and there's just this huge phenomenon that's going on because this woman wrote 4 stories about this town up in New Hampshire all on her phone. So those little things like that, I mean, there's a lot of people who are just writing the simple little book, but who other ones who are doing crazy things like that are attention grabbers that you want to get out there and you want to showcase that. That's an amazing thing in my mind. That's an amazing thing.
Very interesting. And she's in Tennessee and wrote about a small town in New Hampshire. Had she ever visited? Just out of curiosity, had she ever been there?
She had lived in New Hampshire for like 3 years, thought this town was beautiful. She didn't live in it. She just thought it was beautiful. So when they moved to Tennessee, she just started to write, and that was the place she picked up on. And
I see.
4 books about it. It's just incredible.
I see. So it was kind of like an idyllic, in her brain, it was a bit of an idyllic place. And so she wanted to set her stories there.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, hey, and, great props for that small community.
I know.
As well. And hopefully there's buyers there, but that it goes beyond that.
Absolutely. Here's my thing about that. Well, yes, there is, because once the papers picked it up in the magazines in those two towns, where she lives and the place where she wrote about, the surrounding areas have picked it up as well. So she's doing really well with the book. What I find amazing is that you have your phone and you're poking out with one finger 325 pages of a manuscript on your phone. What? How does that happen? I'm a really fast texter, but I couldn't possibly consider doing my one finger with 325 pages.
Oh, and you're this finger. I actually text my thumb.
With your thumb?
Yeah, well, and I do both. Mostly.
See, I can't do that. I'm not a gamer either. That's probably why. You have the gamers doing it with their thumbs. My finger can make this as fast as I want it to go. It's amazing.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, back in high school, I was forced to take a typing class.
Oh, yeah.
Where it was actually old school electric typewriters. Not the total old school, but, electric typewriters.
Same way.
And so I can type about 80 to 90 words a minute. But yeah, and I'll do mostly with my right thumb, but I'll still throw in there with my left because I'm holding it. I have this whole thing because I'm on my phone a lot.
Yeah, me too.
So, about an hour every morning doing all of my social media checks and news postings and so forth. But the amount of time, had she ever estimated like how many hours that it took her to write each of those books like that for 100 and something?
She writes somewhere between 3 and 4 hours a day on her phone.
We're talking carpal tunnel.
I know, right? If you're doing this, even if you're doing this, it's crazy. It's just crazy. And then think about your visual of this. I mean, you have a screen that's 15 to 16 inches wide that you're typing your manuscript on, or you've got this, what is this, 2x5 inch screen? That's insane.
They do make small Bluetooth keyboards for phones and tablets. She needs some of the first money. She needs to at least buy a tablet with an external keyboard or something.
I agree.
That or
she needs to gift herself that. You're right.
Yeah, but it's pretty amazing, and maybe that'll be part of her shtick.
Everyone's got to have one. So
yeah. That written on an iPhone with 2 fingers or whatever, written on my smartphone with 2 fingers, and maybe that'll make people go, wow, just part of the allure as well.
Yeah,
because you do. I mean, there has to be something, in marketing. If you do have, if it does, let me restate that. It's not that you have to have a shtick or something that really kind of is different. Like, for an example, in my paintings, I only apply the paint with my fingers. I don't use brushes. And there's actually, in this time frame, there's this one woman who has grown to fame where she also there's literally boom boom about a handful of us, and this one, she's a very lovely woman, and she's also just a fine art finger painter. And her paintings sell for at minimum $40,000 a piece.
Wow.
Yeah. And again, but she does it full time. She is all in, and she's been doing that for a while. But what it does do is it causes a curiosity, right? So whatever, and in writing, it's very hard because it's getting the words down on paper or down on electronic form. And so, what makes one stand out? Well, obviously the words, the stories, and so forth, but maybe there's something too. Maybe there's,
you're right. Yeah.
Maybe there's other little oddities that someone can think about to pull into their marketing.
Yeah, you're right.
So, yeah. So because that, I'm just thinking about also the photos in her marketing. And it'd be like, a meme. No, bitch, I'm not texting. I'm writing a novel.
I'm writing a novel. Yeah, see? And she's doing great. So, yeah.
Awesome.
I think it's an awesome idea.
Yeah.
Do it.
Well, and one of the things, though, that I also like about that is I have a saying that I kind of thread throughout, because I've had this saying since I was like 18 years old. and that is magic and miracles happen when you believe and you take action.
Correct.
And you can believe in yourself and take action with whatever you have, wherever you are. Okay? If you cannot wait till you have the best gear. You cannot wait till you have the best desk with the best lighting, with the best view outside of your window to get started, with the best birds coming to your window because you have, if you wait for all of that, you all you're doing is you're creating your own your own self prophecy of failure, because you are setting expectations up. Look at this person. She wrote several novels on her freaking iPhone with her thumbs,
well,
right?
That's the thing too. I have an idea that everyone's like, well, I have writer's block, and I'm going to swear on your show. I'm going to call bullshit, because there's no such thing as writer's block. There is laziness. You're sitting here at your desk. You can't get anything done because you're thinking you've got to do the laundry, or you've got to do the dishes, or sweep the floor. That's why you're not writing, is because you've got that all in your head. If you were to get it all out of the way and then sit down and say, now I can concentrate on what I'm doing, you wouldn't have that situation. So that's just an organizational thing. And then back to what you just said, if this woman can sit down and she can write 4 books on her phone, what's holding you back? What is holding you back from to doing whatever you want to do, or from fulfilling your dreams, or coming up with an idea that's going to make you get out of the job that you hate now and put you into a position where you love? My dad always used to say, whatever you're going to do for the rest of your life, you should love it, because that's your job. And if you're going to spend 8 to 10 hours a day doing it, you should at least like it. He worked in that factory for 30 years, hated every day of it. So I love my job. I love to dealing with all the people that I have to deal with, and helping them do the things that they need to do, and being really cool about the fact that I've actually helped this woman to publish these books that she did on her phone, and she's doing really, really well. If she'd gone to a different publishing house, they probably would have said no. And here she's got her dream out. I mean, you know what I mean? That's the whole idea behind this. The people have their dreams, that they've written this book and they want to get it out. And there are so many publishers who are saying no. Well, why not? I mean, really, why not?
Right. Absolutely. And I'd like to just kind of loop back a little bit to your writer's block bullshit. And I agree. And in several of the episodes, we also talk about self-care and burnout. Okay. So maybe you are, let's ask you this question, folks. Put down in the comments, do you think writer's block is bullshit? Yes or no?
Oh, that's a good question.
What are some of the ways that you get over writer block? And I'm going to share a way that throughout most of my interviews, when we have the opportunity to discuss, I talk about how I walk every single day for an hour and a half. I cover about 4 miles a day. I don't have a set time period in which I do that. It's sometimes morning, sometimes afternoon, sometimes evening, depending on my schedule, depending on the weather, depending on if it's, what it's like outside, and so forth. So as a writer, if you are working at home, just because you might have quote unquote writer's block or procrastination syndrome on that particular topic, you can kind of have stumbling blocks in thinking of the next, phase of the story. Well, you don't have to write a story from point A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way to Z. You can jump scenes, you can jump chapters. So if you don't know what's going on right now that you want to write about, but you do know what you want to happen in the next chapter, okay, start working on that. Because then you can always come back to that and then work backwards to get to where you want to go. And another thing too is just get the heck out of the house. If you're sitting down and writing all day, Your fanny
environment. Go to the library or go to a coffee shop. Go down to the beach and sit there and watch the waves and write something just to get you motivated and do it. You're right.
Exactly. Change your environment where you're still also writing, or do like me and take a walk where you're not writing. Have your phone with you so that, because whenever I'm walking, I still am thinking. I will actually solve technical problems, and I will think of new paragraphs or new ways to phrase things for my articles. Or I'll even think about an upcoming interview and questions that I want to ask or things that I want to ensure that we cover. But I'm still thinking, but I'm also getting out, getting fresh air, walking, losing some of these COVID pounds right here. That's gotten on. I'm about halfway through, thank goodness. So, think about going for that walk. If you have a dog, put them on the leash, go out for a walk, and then come back and, look at it fresh. Again, as Christopher was saying, if you're working at a typical desk, move to the kitchen table. Move, if it's nice weather, go outside on the deck, sit in the backyard, go to the beach, do whatever you have to do to change your environment, or start working on a poem. Do something different. Pull out a canvas or pull out a sheet of paper and draw a picture. Maybe it'll become an illustration in your book. Do something different.
This is kind of my writer's black rock. That's what I call it. I found that there's a thing in St. Petersburg, Florida, where it's kind of like find a rock and they're all over the place. And I found this one and I thought, how cool is that? And I was sitting trying to write something and it just wasn't coming. And I looked over at this rock and thought, well, why don't I just write something about how I found the rock or what's about the rock or whatever. And you just start to write. And as you're doing that, you're kind of freeing up your whole mind. And you're saying, I can put this away now and I can go back to my story because I just needed to write something. And this is my writer's black rock.
There you go. So, but that is something you hear a lot of. So I just really wanted to kind of hit that point. And see, my ex of 17 years and so forth, he also, I'm a writer, I want to write. And I kept pressuring him. And I finally just said, and I don't cuss a whole lot of myself, but I did. I said, well, shut the fuck up about it or start writing. Because I'm getting kind of sick of hearing it. It's like, again, if you magic and miracles happen when you believe in yourself and you take action. Because if you only talk about doing something and you talk about it and you talk about it and you talk about it, but you never do anything about it, do you know what that is?
Well, and just like you've heard this before, everyone, when you get to the end of your life, you don't regret the things that you've done. You regret the things that you haven't done or taking a chance or the risk to do. So why not? Why, if you want to be a writer, then sit down and take that chance and do it. You know what? Fine. Maybe what you're going to write, the first thing that you write is going to be crap. But so what? You've got to start somewhere, and then you have to get someone's opinion, and then you can say, what do I do from here? You have to, every day you have to learn about
It's a craft.
It is. And if you don't get it, you don't challenge yourself, then how are you going to get any better? I think, and this is going to be bad because I think about this all the time and people are going to hear this and they're not going to like it. But I think about the people that I went to high school with back in Michigan, and they're still living in the same little town, doing the same little thing, going to the same little restaurant. And that's their life, which is cool if that's what you want. But when you get to the end of your life and say, I haven't done anything, or I haven't gone anywhere, I haven't made anything, how are you going to feel? I need to see things. I need to see people. And I need to do things for them. And I have goals and I want them to meet them. And I am moving and changing and trying to come up with something that I can goal myself or challenge myself with all the time. I just don't understand staying in the same place, never seeing anything else. Think about it for a second. You're in Michigan. I'm using my hand because that's what we do. The Michigan, and you have all these lakes around you, and this is where you live, and you've not seen one of them. What the hell is that? I don't get it.
Yeah, you and I are the same on that. So here, and folks, you are so right. If you don't start it, no matter how bad it may to you suck, then you don't improve. And it's just like having a YouTube channel. You just have to start it with whatever you got, and you improve and you improve.
Here's the thing. If you were to go to a new job, you're going to start a brand new job. You have no idea what you're going to be doing there. You have to learn the job. So you go in on your first day and they show you what's going to go on. Or just like if you learned how to use the computer, you didn't know how to do it. People had to show you and people had to help you through it. Sooner or later, after you've done it over and over and over, you've got it down and you're learning more. It's the same thing with writing or just any other challenge that you've got. You have to start first. And then you've got to figure out how you're going to make it better for yourself or how you're going to learn. And then do that. This is like you just said at the very beginning. If you're going to be a writer and you're going to have a book, then you're going to have a business. And if you're going to have a business, then you have to make the business grow. That's exactly what this is.
Absolutely. And it can start small. And again, practice, do. But magic and miracles happen when you believe and take action. And that action is you doing and you striving. And as you do, you can connect with people like Christopher right here to help your magic happen by working with him and getting that honest feedback. Another way to begin getting that kind of affirmation and getting feedback is join outbureau.com. And then once you complete at least 30% of your profile, and you're a writer, so therefore that should be very, very simple. Mostly it's pick and choose your answers. Is then you'll unlock the feature of groups. So we have an Outwriters group. Now that is, OutBüro is open to the entire LGBTQ rainbow plus our lovely allies. So if you happen to be not of the LGBT community and but still love all the fabulousness that comes with it, feel free to join that group. And so we are inviting publishers, authors, everyone within the industry, and people who are just interested in, collaborating and learning and sharing and so forth. And you can actually post your pieces of your work and get feedback and so forth. Now, the site currently is still young, yet growing. So don't be discouraged if it's short, if it's not a whole lot of people in the group right now. Join it and then share it with your friends. So I know we are almost out of time here. It's been a great conversation. You and I think very much alike on so many things. So great conversation. And knowing that what we talked about is not just for writers, it's for all entrepreneurs.
Yes.
Everything is
you got to get your mind into it and make that decision. And you have that whole something great starts with a single step thing. I get that, but it's true. If you don't take the step, you don't take the action, it's never going to happen. Your dreams that you have in your head are never going to come forward if you don't try.
Absolutely. And don't wait for perfection, because perfection doesn't exist. The thing is, get started and do something toward your goal. Create something, make it, create that website, start writing that, whatever it is in your book.
Start a journal, start writing in a journal and see how that goes. And one of the things that we have 2 magazines and a couple anthologies, and then we have a writer salon that happens every month. These are tools that you can utilize. If you have a short story and you want to try it out and put it in the magazine, so that alone is a cool little accolade that you can have. That's going to boost you up and to say, I want to try this again, or I want to be part of an anthology and I want to be part of a group. And then you're going to say, I can do this. I'll try a new novel now. You've got to do those things. Just take the baby step and try it.
Absolutely. Well, this has been a wonderful dialogue. I so much appreciate having you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
And we're fairly close, so hopefully after all of this COVID stuff is over, we'll be able to grab a drink together.
That'd be great.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for staying tuned to the end of this episode. Again, as we asked earlier, now that you have heard all of this great information and advice, did it spur you? Has it maybe changed your perspective? Let us know down in the comments, okay? What additional things would you like us also to talk about when it comes to the writing industry, inspiration for writers, knowledge, tips, and tricks? Go ahead and put that information in the comments below as well. And perhaps we'll have Christopher or another publisher or author on, and be sure to try to cover those topics as we move forward in progression of our interview episodes here. Well, and whatever application that you happen to be viewing or watching or listening to this episode on, please subscribe, follow, or whatever that application happens to be, such as on YouTube, it's subscribe. On Spotify, it's follow, etc. That way you'll be informed as new episodes come available. Thank you so much for tuning in. You join us on outburo.com. That is OUTBURO.com. Bye-bye.